What are the thoughts and feelings that come to mind when you hear the word government or see it? Unfortunately, for so many people, the words they feel are sadness, anger, and hurt. But there are two emotions that I think are far more important for us to consider today, and that we will consider in part of the conversation. The first is disempowered. So many of us feel disempowered. We look at the government we have, and we feel that there's very little we can do to get the government we want and need. But my conversation will be about how we actually are empowered, and the tools that exist today that allow us to be empowered. The second emotion is optimism. And optimism is the thing that burns deep inside of me, that I tap into, and why I work in government. Not a very popular thing to say, at a party, I work in government. It's not a conversation starter. But it's this feeling that I can improve the system on government without being politically aligned, politically biased. I'm improving the system of government from inside. And that optimism we can feel within the South African public. In the last municipal election, 58% of South Africans went out and cast their vote, cast their ballot, because they believed that there was worth in voting. But for so many of these people, what they actually want is strong leadership. They want better leadership. I've heard it so many times. We want leadership. We're looking for leadership. Someone that's going to come after 2 decades, arms spread open, showing us the way. And for some of us, arms wide open, to give us a hug and say, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. We'll get through this together. But have we considered the possibility that no one's coming to rescue us? Have we considered the scenario that there's no savior coming to save us and take us to the Valhalla that we all dream of going to? But I think the heroes in the room are we the people that live in a constitutional democracy. We've got power. We are not as disempowered as we think. We, the people of South Africa, it's time for us to become active citizens in government, in our democracy. But let's slow down just for a minute and look at the word democracy. How often have we thought about this word democracy? It's bandied about very quickly and easily. But democracy comes from the Greek word, demokratia. It comprises actually of 2 words. The first is demos, it's people. It's all of us, it's people. And the second word is kratia, it's power. It's power. And the founding fathers of our nation put in place systems that protect our country and allow us to save our country in moments when we feel it's needed. But for today, I'm going to fast forward. I'm going to look ahead. And there are a number of areas within government where it needs to be improved and supported. But I'm going to focus on the area of digital communications because it's the area that I work in every day and do my bit to try and move this behemoth of a system forward. And there are 3 elements to making a system resilient. That is, make it more transparent, make it open, make it responsive, and make it more inclusive and participatory. And so I've thought about 3 big ideas of where we're going and where we're taking this government. The first is open data. So much government data is locked within government beige and gray offices, and we have no sight of the value of this data. But imagine a future where government data is unlocked It's open. It's available for mobile app developers, available for civil society, available for academics to work with and use to improve citizen service delivery. So very quickly, as an example, something that comes to mind for me is developing an app. A single mother moves to a new area. She needs to take her daughter to a hospital. Where's the closest hospital and how do I get there? What if we had an app that pulls hospital locations from the Department of Health? It pulls transport information from the Department of Transport into one app that shows her the closest hospital and the closest public transport that can take her there. We're just dreaming. This is the future, and it's open. The second item is a responsive government AI and artificial intelligence. And it sounds very futuristic. It sounds like something you've seen on Star Trek. But most of you have a smartphone in your pocket right now that can access an artificial intelligence. If you have an Apple device, it's called Siri. You speak to it. If you have an Android device, it's Google Assistant. You speak to it, and it gives you an answer. And I believe that when we open government data, we should make that information available to an AI or build an AI ourselves, so that citizens can speak to their mobile device or watch or wearable item in the future and receive government information immediately without having to, and I've heard sad stories of grandmothers having to wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning to get on public transport, to travel to a government center, to sit there for 5 hours for some information or a form of some sort. It's heartbreaking. What if that person never had to travel and from the safety of their home could speak to government? The third item, in a way that government can become more participatory, is the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things. Some of you might have heard about this concept before. Most electronic devices today have access to the internet, and there's the shift to connecting all of our electronic devices. So the Internet of Things is a system of integrated electrical appliances. Again, all your smartphones have at least one sensor pinpointing your current location. And this information can be used for a variety of things. Most recently, we saw a report that identified how many times someone went to a certain shebeen, and then more recently, how many times someone went to a certain massage parlor. So these sensors are with us. The hyper-connected internet is with us. We are all connected right now. And my own personal experience of this was, I was driving in the traffic, and my phone beeped to say that it had picked up a hotspot. A Wi-Fi hotspot has appeared. And I was confused. I was sitting in the traffic, opened my phone. The hotspot was called Audi. And I looked around, and there was this Audi A8 in the traffic with me. The car was the internet hotspot. And so that only gives you a sense of where technology and hyperconnectivity is going. I mean, we can't even think about why our cars would need hotspots, but that future is coming. But how would government utilize this? How would government benefit from this? Government develops policy based off information. We need information to determine policy. And as citizens, we're sitting with so much personal data about ourselves and our lives, and we can select which areas of our lives we want government to be aware of. We can open that data up, and government will have much more data that informs policy. Obviously, we won't request things like your ID number or your address, personal information. So this Internet of Things allows government to be very connected, and there are lots of service delivery items that can be improved by this as well. But that's for another day. But so, let's get back to the here and now. I've talked about all these amazing things in the future, this Internet of Things that's coming. But for the time that I've been in government, we've worked to take one step closer to getting there. We have the South African government open data portal. It's live today. There are 400 data sets online right now that mobile app developers, academics can interact with. But what we need from the community is to say to us and let us know what are the data sets that you want government to unlock. It makes my job easier in going to departments and saying, can you please unlock this data? Look at the massive need for this data. And already we are seeing apps being developed using the data that's available. The transport example I gave you earlier, already we have a Go Metro app that allows you to interact with public transport information. It's there, ready to be used. Most people think that government is unresponsive on social media. And in the last 5 years, I've tried very hard to get more national departments using social media and interacting with citizens on social media. But the one thing I can tell you is that government is listening. It might not always be that us as communicators can twist the arms of politicians and make them do the things we want them to do so desperately. But what we can do is give them the information, let them know what citizens are saying. What you're seeing on the screens is the data related to the fees must fall conversation. And you can see there's a definite spike that happened, and it has now kind of tapered out. But I remember a day, I went to an ops meeting, very concerned. It was around the time the pastor was shot. And the number of citizens talking about police brutality was on the increase. People's perception of the police was changing. And I went to that ops room, I laid out the data, and I said, South African police, you guys really need to change the way you guys are interacting with citizens. Very quickly, people's perception of you will change. And I was able to use that because the voices were there. The hard evidence was there. And thankfully, I think that SAPS took it on board, and we have seen a bit of a better response from them. So I appeal to you, use social media, speak to government. There are people within government that can use that to improve it from inside. Shared platforms and inclusive participation is the final item to talk about. We met up with an entrepreneur who developed a platform called GovChat. Now, government, unfortunately, is not going to build all of the platforms that citizens want and need, but we are there to partner. We want to stimulate entrepreneurship and innovation. How many of you here today live in a suburb and you don't know who your ward councillor is? Yeah, quite a few. Your ward councillor is meant to be there. If a pipe bursts in your street, if electricity goes out, if sewage is bursting out from the street and running down your suburb, there is someone that you can call. This person is being paid to be on call 24/7, to be there for you. So GovChat is a platform that allows you to firstly find who your ward councillor is, and then send them a message. Interact with them. When is the next ward meeting? There are meetings that happen in wards where ward councillors must give feedback to their suburb in terms of service delivery in the area. But also the reason why we like this platform is it's mobile friendly, as you can see. It's mobile optimized. We've even spoken to Tshwane Wi-Fi. It's 0 rated on Tshwane Wi-Fi. You don't pay a single cent. None of your data gets used when you use the platform. And we're currently speaking to the telcos about 0 rating this application nationwide. 0 rate. No data cost whatsoever. So these are some of the things that we are doing right now inside of government. But we need the citizens outside of government to utilize the service and to extend the service. Build linkages with us. When there are no linkages with government, there's a single point of weakness. And what we're trying to avoid is that single point of weakness. The more linkages we form, the stronger and the more resilient we make the government system. So I'm going to end today by saying we are not as disempowered as we think or feel. There are people like myself working inside of government to improve the system from inside. But we appeal to you, the citizens, to be active, whether it be in civil society, whether it be answering parliamentary questions, whether it be utilizing the platforms that we're building. We are not disempowered. Thank you.